Nate says my intros have been boring lately, so flameo, Hotman. Welcome to Tabletop Shop.
Hello and welcome back to the Tabletop Shop podcast. This week we are taking a look at a game from a French designer that's been mentioned many times but never had the spotlight. Then we'll be paying another visit to our Versus segment where we'll be pitting a couple of two-player variants against each other. And those ones are also French designed, actually. I'm not really sure what's going on this episode, but I'm one of your co-hosts, Nate Clark, and as always, seated across the country from me is your other co-host, Mr. Cody Pennington.
How you do, Sue?
How I do. I
Sue?
do well. I do.
Yeah. Sue is now slang for sir, but you're just being really lazy with it. Just, hey, Sue.
It makes me think of that. It makes me think of that song, A Boy Named Sue. Remember that one?
Yeah, well, I've never listened to it, but I know it exists.
Oh, that's a shame. You should listen to that, Cody. It's funny.
But why would I care about A Boy Named Sue?
You got to listen to the song and find out. Here's a good story.
Okay, cool beans. That's great, dude.
All right. You ready for your intro question, buddy?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this for a while.
Okay.
Well, let me clarify. Waiting for a good intro question for a while.
Well, I don't know if this one's good, but it's gonna be weird. That's for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Hit me up.
Cody, in 30 seconds or less, can you convince me that Brass Birmingham is a dumb game?
But why would I want to?
Oh, that's not part of the. I didn't ask you that, Cody.
Okay. All right.
I'll give you, if you want, you can have like 30 seconds or something off air to ponder.
No off air. We're starting right now. Hit the timer. Actually, wait. Let me. Okay, 2 minutes 40. Okay. I got till 3:15. Nate, Brass Birmingham. It takes so long to set up the game. It's just stupid. You have to like stack all of these tiles and these tokens, and just why would anybody want to do that? And you know, sorry, I got distracted because my Audacity put my audio down again. Automatically, I had to raise it back up. So
Irrelevant.
At 8 seconds left. It's dumb art. It's just it's dark and moody. It's dumb. All right,
okay.
It's 3:15. Did I convince you?
I feel like the things you picked on are fair. I mean, I wouldn't say you convinced me, but also I wasn't expecting you to either. So I will say you get points for picking on the things about the game that do suck. Like
Thanks,
the
dude.
art is kind of like there is a mood to Brass, right? And it's well achieved,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I like
with,
the mood.
with the art and the vibe. However, there's nothing too special about the art either, I would say. And then the setup is just atrocious. So,
Yeah.
we complain about setup a lot on this podcast, don't we? Is it just the type of games we play?
I don't know. I mean, I play a lot of small games too. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's just the games that have bad setup, they just deserve to be trashed. Except they don't, since Brass does not deserve to be trashed.
Well, maybe it's because you play other smaller games that when you bust out a big one, it's like you're reminded very acutely of like, I could have played an entire game of like Caverna, Cave versus Cave and the time it took me to set up, whatever.
Maybe our problem is that we just don't play big enough games. Because if we played Twilight Imperium at all, and then like on a regular basis, I'm sure we would then appreciate other games that don't take that long to set up.
There's actually a group in this area that plays Twilight Imperium on like a monthly or bi-monthly basis or something. I'm thinking about
Is that because it takes them a
message.
whole month just to play one game and then they just reset?
It's not that bad.
Oh, okay.
But I would definitely be interested to try that out at one point.
How'd you find that? It was just like on Facebook?
There's a website app, whatever, called Meetup. If you just go there and search in the area, you might be able to find something. I also found a game group that's kind of within like a 20-mile radius. They have a few different spots they meet every week, so that's a good app for. I think it's probably the most that and just Facebook groups in general are probably the two best ways to find groups of people in your area that play games. I would guess.
It's called Meetups?
Meetup. Yeah.
Meetup.
Yeah.
All right, I'm installing that because I need friends, dude. I need game buddies.
Okay, I will go first on new plays because I have no new plays. And I feel like this is it's a little
Hey.
sad. It's a little sad. I feel like it's getting old. I can almost, not 100%, but I can almost guarantee that there will be a new one next episode.
Okay, well that's what I was going to ask you. When are you going to buy a new game? You've moved now, you're settled. When are you just going to start opening that wallet and just dishing out the pain and just bringing games into the house?
I made a resolution to wait until I got a job after we moved before I started purchasing games as kind of like a principle in a way, right? So that is closing in. That accomplishment or that achievement is closing in on itself, and so hopefully by the next time we record, we'll have some new ones to talk about. Although I would like to mention that in the past few weeks, I think, as an accomplishment, in the past few weeks, I believe I've played Ark Nova 5 times. So
So at what point does that count as a new play?
I think it counts less as a new play every time, Cody, actually.
Okay.
But I just thought it was an accomplishment in a way.
Yeah. Do you know, we should start a segment of what haven't you been playing? And then we just talk
could be
about games
funny.
that we wish we would be playing that we haven't played yet.
Or just looking at your games and saying, like, trying to figure out what's the game you've played furthest, longest ago.
The
Yeah.
least, yeah. Okay.
What about you?
That's not bad. I'm hitting you up with a couple new ones. 3 new ones, in fact. I know a couple is 2, so what's a different word for 3? A trio of new
Thruple.
games. A thruple. Yep, a thriple. A triple? That's already a word.
Trio.
Hey, I already said trio. Yeah.
Ah.
You're too late to the party. Flamecraft.
Aha.
And I already sent you... Did I send you a meme? I communicated to you in some way right after I played it how I felt about it. I don't remember what.
I don't remember either. But I remember how you felt about it.
Well, that's good. I'll tell the audience now. I was really disappointed with Flamecraft. I feel like this is one of those ones that was played up real big. I don't know if it's just all the cute little dragons, the cute theme, but that's about all it has going for it. I mean, it's a resource-driven game. Okay, here's the thing. If a game is going to have resources to be good, all those resources have to be a little bit different for the most part, so that there's some interesting aspect to getting one resource over the other.
Listen. The resources have to have character.
They do. Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's a great way to put it, actually. The resources must have character. Nate Clark, 2023.
Put that on Flamecraft.
But Flamecraft, they take a step in the opposite direction. All the resources are the same, but there's 6 different resources. Like, it's bad enough if there's a game that has like 3 or 4 resources and they're all the same. You know, I guess, don't get me wrong, it's not a terrible game. It was just kind of mediocre. And mostly what I was frustrated by is how played up it was.
Yeah, that's the problem, is when you go in with high expectations and when it looks good and then you're disappointed, you feel really burned. No pun intended.
Flamecraft. Flameo Hotman. I will say that the game mat was cool, using a little neoprene rollout mat instead of a board, but I mean that's at that point more just of a gimmick if it doesn't accompany a good game.
If the game sucks.
Yeah. Also played Istanbul like 4 or 5 times now. Yeah, I've been trying to find some good digital games that I can just play a bunch of times, because it's cheaper just to get an app for a game that you haven't played before.
Wait.
Out, like, what?
Pump the brakes there, Cody.
What?
You got the app for Istanbul.
Yeah, son.
Okay. Was it or was it not Kirsten of the two of you who was much more interested in Istanbul? And instead of getting a physical copy to play with Kirsten, you're just playing by yourself online?
Well, maybe I wanted to make sure it was a good game, yo. And now I know it's an okay game.
Yeah, tell me your thoughts.
I don't know. I guess it was about what I was expecting, just kind of a Euro-esque game. Really, you're just moving your little circle around this digital map because it's the app, and you're dropping off other assistants that accompany your little circle piece. So you start off with like 4 or 5, I think. And so you're slowly running out of assistants as you move around the board. But you can go back and retrieve where you dropped one of your assistants and then perform that action again by picking up that assistant. So if you're really efficient, you can move around this grid. I think it's like a 4x4 grid of different action spaces. So you can kind of move back and forth and try to drop off people and then pick up people if you can do things in the right order. And that's really the main puzzle.
Yeah, it's definitely a spatial puzzle, and that core mechanism is, I love it. It's genius. I love that you're thinking so far ahead because you're thinking about, I'm dropping this piece off now, but I want to pick it up later if possible, right? To maximize your actions. So you're really thinking quite a ways ahead. And then the actual, like, what you're doing in the game is kind of just like a bunch of little mini games. You're just kind of stocking up stuff to try and get rubies, basically. And I like that there's a lot of different ways to get rubies, but it's basically essentially just a bunch of little mini games. And the core is that movement mechanism.
Kinda. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, as the little mini games. But besides Istanbul, the third one I played, I believe you'll be interested in, is Beer and Bread.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, man.
Yeah.
You gotta.
I know you're
real
excited.
high expectations.
I know you're excited
man.
about this. All right, I'm gonna take your expectations. I'm gonna put them in the oven. I'm gonna bake them for a while. Let's say 30 minutes, and I'm gonna pull them back out. And your expectations are pretty good.
My expectations are pretty good, or the game?
Yeah, how's
I'm
that?
confused.
The bread that you just baked, and your side of beer with it. Your beer and your bread, it's decent. I'll say that.
Okay.
Beer and Bread only played one game. Actually played it on our Kentucky trip. So it was like in a hotel where we didn't really have a table. So we took like this. Well, there was no table, but there was a couch for some reason. So we took the couch cushion and laid it across like this footstool. And it was big enough to sort of function as a table.
I like the idea that you're in, like, somebody's designing like the interior of this hotel room. And they're like, there's a bed. What is this missing? Somewhere to sit. Not something to put things on. Somewhere to sit. We have somewhere to lay. We need somewhere to sit. Yeah.
Comfort Inn, dude. Comfort Suites, whatever it is. Yeah, it was a game. I honestly just need to play it again. I guess it didn't strike me particularly strongly as like a massively incredible game. It's cool how it's just a 2-player only. Probably the main interest of it is you're switching back and forth. You play 6 rounds, and every other round functions a different way. So the even rounds and the odd rounds have a different way that they work. So there's like the sort of the seasons of plenty, and then the seasons of not very plenty, the seasons of less. And you're just trying to work with planning on the good seasons, certain cards that you're going to put down that you'll pick back up and play again on the off seasons. But the off seasons, whatever cards you play, you don't get back. So you kind of have to pivot every time. The cards you play, it's a multi-use card system. So all cards can be used for harvesting resources, or all the cards are themselves contracts that you can fulfill for points. Or they have an upgrade ability that where you put them down on your side of the board, they then give you sort of this ongoing bonus that you can try to trigger. So yeah, it was fairly decent. The main thing I got frustrated by is you have limited storage space on your little board, and it has sort of this cascade system where once you put down one card, you take the resources on it. Then when you put down a second card on top of it, you take its resources, and all resources are the same symbol that you've already played. So kind of after maybe 2 or 3 resource turns, you're maxed out because you can only have like 9 resources in your storage. And if you play it poorly, you can get maxed out and have a whole bunch of resources that you can't actually use. And then you don't have any space to get like the one resource that you do need to actually fulfill a contract.
And there's no way to trash resources?
No, it's not. Like if you gain resources, any resources that you can't keep, you offer to your opponent, which is kind of cool.
Huh.
And yeah, so you can't swap them out. So Kirsten and I kind of both ran into that maybe middle of the game where we're like, oh, dang, I don't have any water. And like all the contract cards I have in my hand require water. We were kind of saved by some of the bonus cards. Some of the bonus cards like will give you an extra storage spot, but I don't know, that still felt kind of chancy.
So as a first play, you got burned on something that you didn't really anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you're obligated to play it again soon before I
show.
do or do not purchase it. So I want to hear a second play analysis.
I'll give you my follow-up thoughts, and I'll give it a score on the old BGG.
Right on. All right, we should probably hasten on, Cody, to our game of the week.
Yeah, I've spent so much time talking about how Audacity is not working today, so.
And you're doing it again. The game of the week. Okay, so I hinted at our game of the week, but I actually did not say it, and I feel like sometimes I do. Do I usually say it?
Sometimes you do, I think.
Okay, well I didn't this time. Now again, I mean we gotta have this conversation every single episode, I guess.
Yeah,
But
dude.
who's obligated to explain this?
I mean, you owned it,
I
and
did.
I feel like you've probably played it more times than me, although I've played it more recently.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing,
So-
Cody. I haven't played it in like a year. But how about I try and explain it to the best of my memory, and then
Alright.
you can chirp in when I'm incorrect and add on anything.
Sure,
that
let me
I
hit you up
miss.
with. Let me try this.
Can you just a
How was that?
little bit more from the back of the throat, if you could?
A little more?
Yeah. That's
How was that?
perfect. That genuinely convincing, Cody.
Yeah, that was a Pomeranian mockingbird.
Anyways, just I got nothing. I got nothing to say to that.
Okay.
Okay, our game of the week, French designed Black Angel. Actually, this has like 3 designers, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna butcher them, but I believe the main designer is Sebastien Desjardins. I don't know
Deja
how to
vu?
pronounce Deja vu. Xavier Georges, Georget, I don't know, and Alain Orban. Let's go with that.
I feel like you did pretty good.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure Georges isn't correct, but
I mean, it looks exactly like George's.
it's how it's spelled, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay, Black Angel is what we're talking about. It's a dice placement game that takes place. It takes place over a course of rounds, I guess. And the game could end once you kind of max out those rounds, or it can end if you get attacked too much. I don't know. There's some other way it can end that generally doesn't happen.
It's if you run out of it's like the Reavers, I think.
Yeah, like their cards or something if you get attacked too much. Yeah.
The bad guys.
But basically you roll dice at the beginning of a round, and then you have a few different, there's like 6 different spots on the board that you can send a worker, basically. Half of these let you travel out into space, which I'll get to in a second. That's a whole different part of the game. The other ones let you maybe acquire tiles. There's a whole tile system. You have this player board in front of you that you can add tiles to, and you're sliding things in. And all these different tiles either a lot of them just give you bonuses. Sometimes you have to trigger them. Sometimes they're automatic. Some of them might even be scoring things, but I'm not sure. But there's a cool mechanism within that where you're pushing things to the end, and if you push certain tiles to the end, they score, and you can multiply scoring in a certain way. It's all very funky, but you have your player board thing with tiles that give you bonuses, basically. That's one aspect. Another aspect is on the board, there's these Reaver. I think they're called Reavers, actually. They're not from Firefly, but like that's what I think of.
That's why I second guess myself, because
Yeah.
that's already a thing, right?
I think that's how they refer to them in the manual. But
Oh, no, I'm looking at the Ravagers is what they are.
Ravagers. Okay. So you have these Ravagers that occasionally sabotage the actions that are in the game, making actions less valuable. And so this is like a common enemy that affects everybody in the game. And so throughout the course of the game, they will kind of attack different actions kind of randomly based on a card flip. And so one thing you can do is actually repair those damages, and you get rewarded for doing so, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then you can also collect Ravager cards by fighting them off or something like that, and then you can use those cards as bonus cards. And then you have the space section. So like half the actions allow you to send one of your little baby androids things in a little baby spaceship out into space to go mingle with the other alien races that you're passing by on your flight. Actually, I didn't explain the backstory. Maybe you can explain the backstory afterwards. But
Sure, yeah.
basically, you have cards that you send out to space, and these cards might have action spots on them, or they might just have scoring opportunities on them. And if they're action spots, you can spend like dice there. If you have a worker there, you can send a die there to do the action. If it's a scoring thing, there's this mechanism where the space area of the board is composed of, I believe, 7 different tiles that simulate your spaceship moving through space. So all the worker action spaces take place inside the ship. And then this is the like zoomed out, here's your spaceship in space. And then the tiles rotate from front to back. So it's like your spaceship is moving through space every round. Or from back to front, sorry. And that's important because when when a card of yours falls off the back edge, you get to score it, or anybody who's on it gets to score it. And so there's this cool fall off kind of mechanism. It doesn't really have a name, but kind of call it the fall off mechanism, where once it's cycled out and it falls off the edge of the map, you actually do something with it. So that's kind of the other aspect of the game. And you're just trying to get points. So I should have started with the theme and the backstory, but if you want, you can kind of fill that in.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's not super complicated. It's just Earth. I mean, it basically is Firefly. Earth got used up, and now we're going to maybe not terraform, but fly off to this other planet. So aptly named Spez, Spes.
Like what?
Flying through space to get to Spez. And yeah, you put all of humanity in cryosleep, I guess, on board the Black Angel, the ship that you're on, and you have all the little robots just running all the systems, doing the stuff, fighting off the Ravagers, trying to get the ship to Spez, where everyone will wake up and live happily ever after.
Yeah, and then I guess the idea is that along the way, you send out little trading convoys and stuff with the other alien races, and they help you in some way. I don't know.
This is sort of random, but I just wanted to mention for you to remember and for all the audience, kind of like one of my favorite memories of this is when we were playing it, it's like you, me, and Kirsten, whatever last time was, and the second board area mentioned, like the space board that's like made up of the little segments.
Yeah.
They're all shaped like chevrons, so it has a direction to it, and you're supposed to have the ship oriented in a certain way to where it's like flying like against the chevron direction. And I mentioned to you, I was like, hey, dude, you have it set up the wrong way. You had the ship like angled the wrong way. So you're like, oh, okay, my bad. And then I went and started doing something else, and you got it set up, and you flipped all the chevrons around and then flipped the ship again. So it was facing the same direction.
I love your stories
like
where I'm
you
an
did
idiot.
Nothing.
I love your stories where I'm an idiot at the end, Cody. Those are the best ones.
Oh, you seem like it did. I love those stories too. I wish I had more of them.
I thought that was what you meant, because I think in the manual, like the chevrons are facing the other direction, in comparison with where it is in relation to the board.
Oh,
which
like on
doesn't
the
matter
table?
at all. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I guess Cody's just being picky. I guess I'll just flip the whole thing around.
I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's funny. All right. Let's get into the game, Cody. I feel like I've done a lot of talking, so why don't you start us off with some good stuff?
Okay, I like the vibe of this game. It's a little different. It's kind of a dark atmosphere, I suppose. Not in theme, but just the aesthetic of it is a little bit darker, just like space. But then it's accented with like all these neon colors. It's a cool vibe. It gets you in the mood, and when you look at it, all you think is Black Angel. It stamps its name on your heart with its vibe.
It's got kind of almost a 1980s retro kind of vibe to it. I feel
Kinda, yeah. And it has a unique theme, which is cool. I mean, I know it's kind of been done before in sci-fi, obviously so many times, of Earth's used up, we got to go get on a ship and fly away. But it's kind of cool how you're running these little robots to like manage the ship, and then you can encounter aliens and whatnot along the way and fly around. It's a cool implementation of a theme in the board game system. I also like how the board is the ship itself. So like if you're looking around, you have like your own quadrant where you keep all your robots, because I guess all the robots are like in clans. And there is some aspect to the theme where your robots, like you're trying to have them perform the best on the ship, and then if you get the most points, you get to like, I don't know, take over the planet once you arrive or something.
That's one of those things where it's like, okay, we came up with a great game that works really well, and here's our theme. Now, how do we make it competitive exactly?
Yeah,
thematically?
exactly.
You're competing, trying to do the best, get the most like success points.
Yeah, I mean, which basically any Euro game that seems to be the thing, like you're getting points. Oftentimes you're competing at something. We're like, why are we competing at this? Just because
you want the most renown, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I will say that in this game, it calls the points VPs, but then in parentheses it says validation process.
I mean, listen, stupid or clever?
Or French.
No comment.
Okay.
Stupid or clever or French? That sounds like a really bad game show. Like one I definitely would not watch unless I was drunk.
Look at this person. Would you say that they are stupid? They are clever? Or are they French?
Okay. Okay, I'm totally with you. I love the theme. I love the production, actually. You've got these little like diamond things, but even those are a little kind of unique. Like they're not your typical like rubies from like Century Spice Road or something. They're a little bit flatter, a little bit different. But then of course the highlight is you've got your little Black Angel mini basically on a stand, and all these little robots, all these little androids with their tiny little spaceships that you put them in. Like these components are so small. It's so funny. You've got all these little like flying saucer things that are like smaller than a dime, and you're putting your little tiny like robot in it and sending it out to space. It's just great. I love it.
It's cute. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just the theme, and the look and everything as a whole is just, really good. Like you said, the dark juxtaposed with the bright neons just works really well.
Yeah. I'm with you there as you are with me back there. In material quality, I really like everything involved in the game. The only thing is the resource cubes are maybe kind of generic, like they're just the pandemic clear cubes, but it works with everything else. It just kind of adds another little pop of color because they're all just red.
Yeah, they're like the Ravager cubes specifically, right? Which is why they're red.
The damage cubes, but they once you take them or you deal with them, then they count as a resource, which is cool.
And I love that system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that being said, I like the balancing act of the game. Resources are kind of slim, and so you don't have many robots that you start with, and you have to assign robots just to earn you dice that you can use, so you need to keep them on hand. But then you also have to have robots and ships available anytime you go flying out, like away from the main ship into space, which is where you kind of do most of everything. But then you need you need one robot in a spaceship just to be flying around. But then if you're going to build a card, which this is kind of the other main mechanic of the game, is you're putting these cards out in space that slowly fall off the map as the ship moves, which is pretty cool. But you need additional workers available, or additional robots that you can use to claim ownership of a card. And if you don't have an extra worker like in your available bank, you actually can't build a card.
And you use them to represent how many dice you're allowed to roll at the beginning of the round, right?
Yes.
So there's like that central spot where however many workers you've dedicated to that spot, that's how many dice you're allowed to roll. So that's also kind of an important thing. But that one actually, I believe the game in certain situations lets you like swap a guy out or something like that. Oh no, it's for the different colors of dice, right? There's like 3 different colors of dice, and where you put your robots represents how many of each color you're allowed to roll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you can, as an action, there's like a specific action you have to activate. You can move a robot back like from a dice pool to become an available worker, but then you obviously don't have access to that extra die anymore.
Yeah, or you can exchange like 2. But we're getting a little too detailed here about, know. I want to mention the common enemy thing is pretty cool. It's not like this stupid AI thing that gets just kind of tacked on for like a 2-player variant of a multiplayer game. It's not like that. It's not like a dummy deck of cards you're flipping and drawing. But it's something that both negatively affects everybody in the game, but also can have a positive spin if you invest the action to kind of repair the ship or whatever, right? So you can, I believe 2 of the things you can do is you can either like fight the Ravagers, and then you get Ravager cards, which can be used as wilds to trigger things on your player mat, trigger your tiles and stuff. Or you can repair parts of the ship that have been damaged by the Ravagers, and that gives you cubes that you can use to activate things on your player mat. So I like that positive spin, but I also like that it's a negative thing that's affecting everybody. So if an action's affected that I don't need to use for a while, I might not prioritize like repairing that one if it's negatively affecting you more, right?
Sure. And that's just another part of the balancing act, because if everybody kind of ignores the Ravagers and you want to focus on something else like getting points, the Ravagers can kind of take over almost the whole ship, and then it really causes problems where you can barely get anything done.
Yeah, it nerfs all of your... Basically, the more the Ravagers attack certain like any action, basically the value of the die that you put there is decreased. And so it hurts everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, let's talk about the dice. Another way it plays into the balancing act. The dice have a unique system. They're all just 6-sided dice, but it's like there's a blank side. It's like 2 1s, 2 2s, and a 3.
Something like
is
that,
what you can roll on them. Yeah. So, I mean, the blank side is just a 0. But wherever you assign the dice, you activate that action to the power of the dice that you're using. So, obviously, 3s are better. 0s are kind of useless for the most part.
Yeah.
But you have these... resources in the game. Oh, okay. I was mixing up the resource cubes with what are actually called resources. Yeah, they're the damage cubes that then become like debris or something. The resources are little diamond thingies.
Yeah.
You can spend a resource to flip a die, which always increases a die by 2. Well, unless it's already a 2
Unless
or
it's
3.
on 3 or
Then again, you just keep flipping it and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. Nah, so if you have a 0 or you have a 1, you can spend a resource and turn it into a 2 or a 3. So you don't get hurt as much by bad dice. But you can also steal dice. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, that's where I was going, yeah.
You can spend a resource and steal a dice.
Thanks, Cody. All right, my next point.
I got you.
My next point is something I already mentioned, which is the fall-off mechanism, which is just kind of unique. And maybe something like this has been used in a different game, but it works so well with the theme of traveling through space, and it's a fun mechanism as well, that you're dedicating things on this board and you know for a fact that in 2 or 3 rounds it's going to fall off, you're going to score it, and you're going to get those well, you're not going to get them back, but it's going to fall off and you're going to score it, and it gives you time to maybe optimize the amount of points you'll be able to score off of that. So it's a fun mechanism with things falling off. It almost reminds me of Anachrony a little bit, where you're going through the timeline and at a certain point some of those, whatever they're called, anomalies or whatever, are too far in the past that you can't reach them anymore. So that's almost a fall-off mechanism in a way, too.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I feel like I equate Black Angel and Anachrony in my mind, because they have a few similarities to them. I didn't even think about that fall-off aspect. Good point. Good talk.
Your turn.
All right, thanks, dude.
We're professionals, Cody. Gosh dang it. We've been doing this for over a year.
Professional podcasters. What episode is it? 31, I think?
I believe it's 31.
All right, look at that. 31. But I agree. I really like the moving board. To me, it feels like you're trying to keep up, like, with the ship. So if you put out one of your little robots in a little ship and you're flying around, it's kind of hard to keep pace and stay on the board if you want to, because you can dedicate a little robot in a ship and put it on a card that's about to fall off, and then you'll get compensated to a stronger level when that card falls off. So that's kind of another balancing act, because then you lose your one little robot that's flying around out there doing stuff for you. So you have to know, just when to do it. I actually ran into a big problem with that, the game that I played with Kirsten just recently, because it had been a while and I didn't really remember like what the arc of the game was like and when you need to balance having more robots and ships and when to kind of switch over to trying to get points. And so I ended up with like all my robots and ships, specifically ships, had fallen off the edge of the board. I had none left. And then I realized that I had gotten rid of the one technology tile that gives you ships on my personal player board. And then I sat there, I was kind of stumped. I was like, oh, there is like no possible way to get more ships. I can do nothing else in space. I'm just kind of like stuck for the last couple of turns.
Oof.
And that was pretty frustrating. I almost was going to put that as a dislike, but I think it's just something you have to learn and then pay attention to, because once you realize that, it's not that hard to avoid that trap.
You just have to pay attention, and there's quite a bit to pay attention to in this.
Oh, there is.
I don't know if it's overwhelming, but I think the first time you play, especially, it is. Yeah.
Well, it's super different too. There's a lot of different concepts. It's like even if you're fairly familiar with like Euro games, this feels pretty different.
The scoring on your player board is weird, right? There's this mechanism where like the first scoring tile to get to the end can potentially be scored double under some certain circumstances, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think you had actually taught us a little bit wrong. Add this to the Nate was wrong list.
No way.
Yeah, well, you know how you have the three rows and 3 columns?
Yeah.
But at the end of each row, there's like a little spot where you can put a black technology tile, and those are the end game scoring ones. I feel like you had taught us where it's only one black technology tile can like go in sort of each row. But all it is any 3 that you get to the end, you just fill up in those 3 slots.
Yeah.
Like they don't all have to be like in different rows or anything.
No, that's right. That sounds
okay.
right. Yeah.
Maybe you taught us right. Maybe I just learned it wrong. Or
Maybe you remembered it wrong.
Yeah.
Only other positive I want to mention is that it's kind of a weird positive, but it feels like for I don't want to say such a heavy game, but for a relatively heavy, complex game with a lot going on, the setup actually doesn't seem that bad, I would say. I feel like the only thing that really kind of seems annoying is all the tiles that you kind of have to set up and get situated. But everything else there's not a ton of things that you have to meticulously set up in a certain way. Again, kind of comparing this in my head to Anachrony, which is just like insane, you know?
Well, how about we move on to trashing this garbage game?
It's curb stomp it.
Yeah. I don't like the dice very much. I like how they function.
They're ugly, man.
It's the one aesthetic part of the game that just takes you out of it. It's like these are just kind of like very plasticky looking dice.
Yeah, the colors they chose aren't bad, but the plasticky sheen that they have feels really cheap.
Uh-huh. I mean, I don't know, like metal dice, I don't know how you'd fix it. Wooden dice just wouldn't work thematically.
No. I don't know. Maybe like the translucent ones, so you pick, they're still colored, but they're also kind of translucent.
Like the Sagrada dice?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Another thought I had was I feel like the game almost, not quite, but almost feels too clever for its own good. It's like it's so different, but there's also so many things going on that I feel like I had to spend half of the game just looking up things again in the manual to be like, wait, how's that part work? Like what? Just because there's so many unique aspects that all have their own like list of things you have to remember to just keep it functioning properly.
Well, I'll join in on that one a little bit with a point I have, which is that I feel like the learning curve on this game is insanely steep. Like I was saying earlier, the first time playing this game, you are just lost. You don't even really know what you should try and focus on. It's just, there's so many new concepts, whatever. But as with all games that are like that, the flip side to that coin is that once you've played the game a few times, you can really start to get into the groove of things and experiment with strategies and whatever, because you've kind of really wrapped your mind around how it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a lifestyle game.
Oh, and it's really not fun to teach either, I would say.
No, it's not. And it's not fun to try to remember how it works. Like if you haven't played it in a while, like I guess I'm just going to read through the entire rulebook again.
Basically.
The only other thing for me, so this is my last dislike, which is pretty good for the game. I don't really like the technology board very much, like your personal technology board. It's a decent puzzle that's fairly fun, but it feels kind of abstract just compared to everything that's going on. Like this technology is represented by a piece of cardboard that I then have to move up and around. And I know they talk about it like you're injecting the technology into you're part of the ship's mainframe or something. But like, yeah, sure, it's great. So it's kind of a decent puzzle, but I feel like it leans more towards just being work than fun.
Well, I agree that thematically it's really it's kind of a thing of its own. It's not, it doesn't feel connected to the thematics of the game at all. Whereas the doing actions on the ship and flying through space are both very well connected. That being said, I enjoy that part of it. There's a lot of little bonuses you can get. The scoring opportunities are stressful, but they're like you're really trying to kind of accomplish them and get something all the way to the end, whatever. So it's like definitely thematically, yeah. It's kind of felt like it was almost tacked on in that sense, but I think it integrates well with the gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Any other negatives?
Yeah, one little thing is it's a table hog, but that just comes with the territory. You're playing a big kind of complex Euro. Yeah. I mean, there are literally like 2 main boards, not to mention a decent sized player board for everybody that you're tucking things on the ends. Like it takes up a lot of space.
And if you have a 4-player game, that's tough.
Whew. But my bigger biff is actually the space section. The concept is incredible. I love it. I love this going out, setting up cards in space, and they're slowly getting towards the end, and you're trying to utilize them as best as you can. But that was actually what I struggled with. And maybe I just didn't play the game enough. I probably played it 4 times, I think, over the course of when I owned it. But I always felt like I didn't get to utilize that part of the game well enough. I always felt like things were falling off way too soon. Even if I was planting them early, it just felt like with everything going on out there, I just felt like I didn't get to do... It felt like there was so much to do. Like there's action cards being put out there that you can use for your dice instead of the core 6 actions, and there's scoring opportunities and whatever. And it just felt like I couldn't do even half of what I wanted to do out there most of the time,
Yeah.
So, but that being said, great concept. And overall, I think the game is really unique, has a lot of fun stuff in it. And yes, it's a pain to learn and a pain to teach. And you're going to be in the rule book a lot your first play or so. But if you end up liking it, wow, it's a really good game.
Yeah, once you get past that, this is a phenomenal game. This ranks for me as number 22 in my top hundo, so pretty good.
Wow. I believe I'm somewhere around the same 30 or higher, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's always going to stay there. It's one of those games that has an impact on you, Even, like for me, like I said, it's already been over a year since I've played it, It's kind of doing some research for the episode and, now talking with you. It's like, okay, yeah, it's really all coming back now.
Mm-hmm.
But even before even before I started researching again, whatever, like this has kind of solidified a position in the top 100, and it'll be there for a long time because the game has just implanted this, like, this is a good, solid game. And I've really enjoyed it the times I've played it. It's impactful on me because it's so unique. And so even though I haven't played it in a while, I may not ever play it again. I don't know. But it's just left such a good taste in my mouth.
Yeah. I think this is a fairly underrated game. It's on BGG, it's 825 right now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this should be a fair amount higher than that.
I just don't know how well it sold when it came out or how available it is now. I don't think it was a Kickstarter, actually. I believe I thought it was, but also kind of doing some research, I don't think it actually was. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it just didn't have the reach that it maybe should have had.
Yeah. I was going to say it's a pretty expensive game, but maybe it used to be on Amazon right now. Amazon, it's 60.
Yeah. I bought it used for 40. Found it secondhand Found it local. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I bought it from some dude in a Roth's parking lot, man.
You buy lots of games at grocery stores, dude.
Cut it out with that Lord of the Rings crap.
Yeah.
All right. We good on Black Angel?
Yeah, we've rambled enough. Let's get on to that banter.
Let's get on to that versus banter.
Yeah, second versus, right? We've only done one before?
Only done one. We did Terraforming Mars versus Ares Expedition.
Yeah.
This is going to be different, obviously.
Indeed.
These games are not related as much as those two were, so the comparison is a little bit... You have to think a little bit more about the comparisons. It's not so direct, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're both 2-player variants of popular yet very simple crowd pleaser games that have sold. I don't know. I would guess both Seven Wonders and Splendor are like probably in the top 10 if not the top 5 of like best-selling modern board games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so
and
these
both
are yeah, go ahead.
implemented by Bruno Catala.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I alluded to. Both Bruno Catala implements for the 2-player variants. So
So would you say these games are dumb, clever, or French?
well, let's take them one at a time there, Cody.
All right.
But they are both definitely and unequivocally French.
Yes. Now, we didn't discuss this beforehand, but this time, how are we going to go about this? Are we keeping the same way that we
We
compared
could
them
keep
last time?
let's keep it the same way so we don't have to figure it out again. So we'll start with Seven Wonders Duel, let's say, and just go
Okay.
go all the way down with that and then switch
All right.
to Splendor.
I like it. Do you want to hit us off with your first point for Seven Wonders?
I'll hit us off with my first and my biggest point, actually. We're going to come out swinging here. So this is Seven Wonders Duel and Splendor Duel. For Seven Wonders Duel, I really feel like it actually encapsulates the duel feeling more than Splendor Duel does. To me, Seven Wonders Duel really feels like kind of more of a tug of war kind of with the other person. Not just because of the military aspect that is literally a tug of war or a push of war. But it's just everything you do, you're always looking over to the other person and seeing, okay, how does my draft affect what they're trying to do? What do they want? What do I want, but what do they want? And if I can't really get what I want, well, how can I hate draft to take something that they don't want? It's very much in the other person's face. Really, like everything you do is really connected to what the other person is doing. So I felt like it did a much better job than Splendor Duel did. Splendor Duel, in a way, it almost felt like multiplayer solo, which is sad for a 2-player game. But you definitely impact the other person somewhat with the scrolls, especially. But it really kind of felt like for most of that game, you're just kind of doing your own thing, and it doesn't matter as much what the other person's doing.
You know, it's kind of sad since we're talking about these two duel games. I didn't even think about that specific aspect of how well it implements the duel style, but I definitely agree. Seven Wonders did it a lot better. My first point actually is a little more superficial, perhaps, literally, but it's the artwork. I think Seven Wonders Duel has
Far and away.
far superior artwork. Splendor Duel, it's very different from Splendor in the first place, just in the style that they chose. But they went with this sort of like cartoon anime look, which I don't know why. Like, where did that come from? Why is this in a board game, and why is this in the duel adaptation of Splendor?
It didn't really work for me. Didn't really work for me.
Yeah, it honestly just makes it look fake. As opposed to Seven Wonders Duel, I feel like I could be a little more immersed in it, you know?
Well, it feels a little more serious, doesn't it? Like Seven Wonders Duel feels a little bit less like you're playing a kid's game than Splendor Duel does, right? So I'll piggyback then. Because I said art, but also design. I feel like Seven Wonders Duel looks a lot better on a table than Splendor Duel does also. Splendor Duel looks kind of boring. It's just like a square and then a bunch of discs. The scrolls are kind of like cool little components, but in general, it's like a square board and you're collecting tokens. Whereas Seven Wonders Duel, you have this weird part on the board that's like this weird shape for your green tiles and your military track. And then you've got the card display fanning out from that you're drafting from. It just looks better. And then on top of that, I agree. I don't really get immersed into either game thematically. Like there's pretty strong disconnects for both, but the actual art in Seven Wonders Duel is definitely superior.
Yeah. Faux show. I would agree, but I already basically said it, so you're agreeing with me. Thank you, dude.
It would only be logical for you to agree with me then, Cody.
Indeed. All right. My second point is comparing how the given duel variants made the core game more fun. I think Seven Wonders Duel did better.
Wait. What do you mean? How they made the core game? Oh, okay. How they improved on the core game, you mean?
Yeah, from the previous game, which it was a little bit hard for me to gauge because I've only actually played Seven Wonders once, and that was kind of early on in my gaming hobby, so I don't really remember it super well. But from what I know of it, from what I remember of it, I think Seven Wonders Duel did a better job at taking this concept and just making it really fun. I think Splendor still did a decent job, but I just noticed it a lot more in Seven Wonders Duel.
I think I have a similar thought that I'll not really piggyback on, but I'll carry on here, which is that, well, one point I made is that I feel like Seven Wonders Duel feels more unique from the base game than Splendor Duel does. I feel like Seven Wonders Duel really took the base of what Seven Wonders did and really ran with it, made it more strategic, more interesting, added more depth to it, and they definitely feel like very different games. To me, Splendor Duel still felt way too splendory, and I never liked Splendor that much to begin with, and so for it not to feel more different from the base game was kind of a disappointment for me.
I'll comment later. How's that?
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, it's your turn now, so.
Keeping it spicy. All right. Well, I like how Seven Wonders Duel, every game feels different, son. After playing Splendor Duel a couple of times, sure, you can maybe try to do a different strategy each time. Like maybe you can try to focus on a different win condition. And I mean, obviously the cards that show up at the beginning of the game are going to be a little bit different, but Seven Wonders Duel, I think, does much better. Every game that you play of Seven Wonders Duel, you really can, like, conceivably take a different approach and probably still win. Like, if you're really going to just go for the yellow income cards that just give you a lot of money and you don't even worry about resources, or really go strong in resources, or really go strong in military, it's just much better. And then how you have 3 different rounds where every round is a different setup of randomized cards that you have to like draft out of that pyramid, that just adds to the difference every time.
And I like that there's 3 every round that are set out. So even once you've played the game a bunch, so when the cards come out, you can only see half of them, and there's 3 that are out of the game. So already you're kind of trying to guess. After you've played the game quite a few times, you kind of know what's in each round, and you can see half of them. You're kind of trying to guess what might be coming up, which factors into how you draft. But then, yeah, there's those 3 cards off to the side that it's like, you can't factor those in. You don't know what's missing, right? And that's something I feel like basic card games kind of did a lot. It's like you take 1 or 2 cards out so that people can't really effectively count cards, because there's that X factor.
Yeah, did a good job.
I have my last point is kind of similar. It was more of a blanket statement, though, which is that I just feel like Seven Wonders Duel has more strategic avenues. It has more depth, right? The drafting is a brilliant mechanism. It's very creative, very unique. You have this, I mean, we haven't really explained it. We've talked about the game a ton, but basically you have this kind of layout of cards that are kind of overlapping each other. And as you're drafting cards, you unlock more cards to draft. Every card is blocked by 1 or 2 other cards. And so it becomes this intricate back and forth drafting, and you never draft the same pattern twice in a game. That's what I like too. Depends on how they come out. It depends on what your personal strategies are. And yeah, and there's just so many different things to pursue. There's a lot of different types of cards that are very unique. Whereas Splendor Duel, there's a bunch of different colors, and there's a few different end game goals that you can work towards, but there's not nearly enough wiggle room strategically.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump on that. I think Seven Wonders Duel is just more fun. Like, just
right. I didn't put that point in, but I guess that's my 5th point.
All right. Well, yeah, I think it's just better. I think it has a better board presence. Yeah, there's more going on, more decisions to make, more strategy. It's much more replayable, and it's just kind of iconic. And here's kind of my problem with Splendor Duel with that is Seven Wonders Duel is like, I am Seven Wonders Duel. I did it, and I'm amazing. And then Splendor Duel is like, I'm a duel game too. Look at me.
I can do it too. But the funny thing is, they're both Bruno Catala, so.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, that's good. That's good, Timmy. That's good, Bruno. Now go play by yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other positive or any other in the favor of Seven Wonders Duel points for you?
That's what I got. I'm ready to start talking nice things about Splendor.
Why don't you start?
Duel.
Because even though you've just stated that you think Seven Wonders Duel is more fun, I still think you probably have more points than I do for Splendor Duel. So why don't you start?
Okay, cool. Ease of setup. Seven Wonders Duel, you've got to take 3 different decks of cards. You've got to remove 3 cards from each of them. You've got to shuffle them all together. The 3rd deck even has a second sub-deck that you have to take cards from.
True.
And then you have to have a reference card for a different way to set up each round. Don't get me wrong, I still like Seven Wonders Duel, but Splendor made it a much more streamlined process where you've got 3 decks of cards. You all keep them the same. You don't take any cards out. You just flip over a few cards for each one. And then you take a board and you just fill it up with some tokens. You're good to go. Boom. Easy peasy.
I didn't really think about setup and takedown, but actually I definitely would agree with that. it is a little bit of an event to set up Seven Wonders Duel. Yeah.
Oh,
But
show.
at the same time, it's kind of fun when you're laying out all the cards for the round to see kind of what comes out in the pattern can be fun. The biggest thing for me on Splendor Duel is that you can work towards multiple goals at the same time pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in Seven Wonders Duel, you can either win just when the game expires, when you run out of cards, and then you count up points. You can also get a sudden defeat based on the military track if you push it far enough, and you can get a instant victory based on the green tokens based on the green cards if you collect different symbols. So those are the 3 different ways you win that game. Whereas in Splendor Duel, it's only I don't want to say not cutthroat, but it's only like sudden death. There's 3 different ways to win, and once one of those is accomplished, you win. But they're more closely related that you don't really have to kind of decide on what you're going for towards the beginning, right? You can kind of play around, see how the tokens come out, collect different things, kind of depending on what the other person's collecting, what they buy, what other cards get flipped out into the market. And you might think that you're going for something half of the game, and then all of a sudden the way things kind of happen, like, oh, okay, never mind, I'm much better situated to go for that, right? Because you can work towards all of them at the same time, basically. Collecting the crowns also is something that you can kind of do on the side. So
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on that. I think that Splendor Duel did better with how it balanced the different victory conditions. Seven Wonders Duel, it's almost always just comes down to points. Like, on rare occasion, you'll have a military victory, and on super rare occasion, you'll have that science victory. But beyond that, it's kind of just points. Whereas Splendor Duel, yeah, like you said, you can work towards multiple things at the same time, and they all kind of have a fairly equal opportunity to them that you can complete them within. So you might get just a whole bunch of points off of one card, or is it you can just get points total? I think just in general from any card, or you can just get not 3 crowns, a bunch of crowns.
it's like 10 points of one color, 30 points total, or 10 crowns, something like that.
Oh, is it 30? I thought it was like 20 or something. You might be right about the crowns.
That's peanuts, Cody.
What?
Anything else? It's your turn on Splendor Duel. It's
All
your
right,
turn.
thanks, dude. Splendor did a good job. Piece quality. This was kind of not that big of a disparity between the two, but I think that Splendor, you have all these circles, these cool plastic circles that are thick. They're kind of like thick quality poker chips with nice printings on them. I mean, maybe the artwork is kind of weird, but it's still I guess decent color pattern and everything. And then you have the cool little scrolls and the multiple boards that you're working with. Seven Wonders Duel is still pretty good, but I feel like Splendor Duel just kind of barely ekes it out with general component quality.
Yeah, on that, for me, they were pretty much neck and neck to the point that I didn't give it to one or the other. I was thinking, okay, the scrolls are cool, but also I really like the different, or the military piece is very intricate and cool.
Yeah,
and
the
also
one piece that's in Seven Wonders Duel.
Well, there's only 3 scrolls, and they're all the same, Cody. So I don't want to
true.
hear about that crap.
Okay.
But also, the fold-out board is kind of cooler. It's kind of unique and how it works with how the cards come out. And so,
Yeah.
to me, it was a wash. Neither of them is really anything special, I would say, at all. And so it was just, I couldn't give it to one or the other. But maybe I should have, because I have nothing else to say about Splendor Duel, which is sad.
Okay.
But it's reality. It's the truth. Every single category, basically, that I went through in my head, Seven Wonders Duel just came out on top of all of them. And I was like, it's just the superior game. It just did. I know I'm already going to verdict, but
dude, you just go.
I'm jumping, but
doing?
It should be obvious because I only had one good thing to not only one good thing to say, but only one category in which Splendor Duel was better than Seven Wonders Duel, and that's just how it is. But you take it over. You finish up.
Right.
You finish up whatever crap that I may or may not agree with. If it's something I've forgotten about.
Thanks for just showing your whole hand and then being like, oh yeah, by the way, Cody has another point he'd like to make about Splendor.
Go for it.
All right. So I think that Splendor did a better job at innovating from the original game. Now, don't confuse this with my point about Seven Wonders Duel,
I'm
where
really
I
confused,
feel like
Cody.
Seven Wonders Duel made the original game much more fun. So in fun factor, Seven Wonders Duel wins. But in the things that Splendor Duel, even if it ended up just being like, well, I don't really care that much. I still like Seven Wonders Duel more. That being said, it made some pretty drastic changes from Splendor. So how you draft tokens it's not just from a random pool. It's like there's a board in the middle and you have to draft in threes. And if there's like a broken patch in threes, you can't take like one piece, a blank spot, and then the piece on the other side. You just have to take one piece or just a few pieces from the other side. You have to work around the gold tokens too. You can't draft gold, so you have to try to draft 3 in a row from around them. They added in the pearls, which we were talking about resources and how resources are dumb, like in Flamecraft, but Splendor Duel added not just gold as a wild, like I guess that already existed, but they added pearls, which I don't remember if gold can count as a pearl or not, but pearls are more rare, so it's like it's just a more rare resource that's harder to get. And all the card effects are pretty cool. Splendor, in like normal Splendor, you get a card and now it's worth points or no points, and then it has its ruby or whatever gems attached to it. Mm-hmm. In Splendor Duel, some of the cards, they may have the crowns that relate to endgame points. They have their base like color for what it's going to count for in future purchases. But then there's like these 5 different card effects that can trigger. Like it can let you take another turn, or you can gain a little privilege thing. You can make a card count as a different colored card. So it did a lot more in differentiating itself from the original game, all the things that it added. All that being said, Seven Wonders Duel is still more fun, so yes, that's my verdict as well. Seven Wonders Duel knocks it out of the park. Splendor, go sit by yourself and play yourself.
Splendor Duel feels like a game for kind of maybe less competitive people, or maybe less gamer-y people, whereas Seven Wonders Duel feels like the more strategic, more unique, more all-around interesting game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's definitely the superior product.
Probably doesn't help that I just don't really like Splendor very much.
Yeah, Splendor really sucks, man. And Splendor Duel didn't improve on it enough for me.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a letdown. That's our verses. I don't know what we're going to match up next, honestly. Like, we've done the kind of the related games as far as like the Terraforming Mars thing, and now we've done the duel thing. So I don't know what direction we'll go next time we do a versus matchup, but it'll be fun.
We could do, this would be like, I feel like the answer is kind of easy, but it's a comparison that was made quite frequently when they both first came out. Duel Imperium versus Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Here's the thing, Cody. Here's the problem. I've played Arnak once. I believe it was maybe 2 years ago, and I couldn't tell you a thing about how that game works, and I will not be playing it again. So I just can't do that, Cody. I could give you my verdict though if you want.
I mean, it will kind of be it'll be the same thing that happened today. You'll make a couple of points, you'll get to the end, you just say, this one's better. Now, Cody, you go.
The only difference is I won't have anything good to say about Arnak. So.
And remember, never challenge Bruno Catala to a duel. And we're back in the end of the video podcast.
Honestly, I just recovered from laughing out loud boisterously at your and remember, Cody. That was one of the funniest ones in a while.
All right, I'm glad you like that so much, because I was not very impressed by it myself.
Really?
But I'll use that as a good scale.
To be fair, it's pretty stupid, but it was funny.
All right, I'll take that. Hey, everybody, like, comment, subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
Email us at tabletopshop23@gmail.com and Instagram at tabletop23 and anything else.
I forgot that's what this segment is about. My bad.
Yeah, I don't think we've really done that for a while.
Not for a while. Thanks for listening.
Bye.